What's going on, guys? This is Bourbon N Ball. We're talking week 20, hottest players, coldest players, and some really good overproducing, underproducing ones. Hopefully they can keep it up, but we'll dive in right after this. What's going on, guys? Week 20, Bourbon N Ball. I am Doug, along with my lifelong friend over there, Mikey V from Clearwater, Florida. We are bringing you week 20 of the hottest, coldest players, and we should just jump right into it. There they are, a little who's who. I'm a little surprised. It's a little crazy. And when you're wrong, you're wrong. When you're right, you're right. I will hop right into it. Jordan Walker, listen, I still am not sold yet, and it's crazy to say that even with the numbers. But I mean, what has he done 3 weeks prior to this? Like this, for like pretty much the second half up to this last 7 days, he really hasn't looked great, right? I mean, but this is the last 7 days, so we'll give him this: 344, 3 homers, 10 ribbies, 7 runs, 7 strikeouts, a stolen base, 39 points, 4.9 a start. Then you got Royal shortstop Bobby Witt Jr. He's 99% owned. 308, 3 homers, 6 ribbies, 11 runs, 5 strikeouts, 1 stolen base, 38 points, 5.4 a start. So it's good to see Kansas City at least. I mean, they're out of it, but they're trying to make some noise. They're trying to be the stopgap for some of those teams that do make the playoffs or are in contention. So you'd like to see that. And I will say Vinny P has looked really good lately as well. Just throwing that out there. But some honorable mentions: Jays catcher Alexandro Kirk, 38 points. Mike, and you said he was their best hitter last week, so kudos to you for calling that one out. White Sox first baseman, third baseman Miguel Vargas, 34. D-backs catcher, it's like the catchers right here. Gabriel Moreno, 33 points. Reds second shortstop Matt McLean, 31. And then last but not least, Phillies third and first baseman Alec Bohm with 30 points. So Mikey V, you want to break some of these guys down for us?
I mean, let's start with Jordan Walker, your arch nemesis, I feel. The way you talk about Jordan Walker, man, you are just not a Jordan Walker guy. Never have been. As long as I've known you, you've never believed in the Jordan Walker experience. But I'll tell you what, I'm a fan because I had him on a team. He picked me up during the first week of April, and all of a sudden I've been writing him out. We talked about Kyle Schwarber last week, right? How he had no home runs, really, leading after the All-Star break and really just struggling all the way through. And then last week he was on our heart list with, 3-4 home runs, including in the cornfield game. So Jordan Walker, again, just a late bloomer this the second half. Hopefully he can keep it up. Obviously he's been a breakout star so far to this point, but like Doug said, these last few weeks have been really clunky. So, we'll keep a pulse on it, as I always like to say every week, that. So again, Jordan Walker, continue the hot streak. Bobby Witt, welcome back to the hot list. I feel like it's been a minute, Doug, since we've talked about Mr. Witt himself. Again, first rounder pick. This is the expectation that you get from him. Getting that all around runs, RBIs, threw a stolen base in there, right? Hitting for average, hitting for power. That's the type of guy that you thought you were going to draft with Bobby Witt. Again, Kansas City this year, it's really been up and down. It's great to see, like you said, Vinny P hitting the ball pretty well lately. But again, it's just kind of been an up and down season for him. I think they're onward and upward to 2027. But Bobby Witt is obviously going to be a big part of that, obviously. He's still going to be considered a first-round pick in a lot of leagues. He's just that good no matter what team he does play for. So Bobby Witt, great to see him on this list. And like you said, Doug, this was really catcher heavy this week. It was kind of funny to see some of the names come up. Gabriel Montero, I think, might have been, so far, one of the best second half catchers to this point for Arizona. I feel like we talk about him a little bit almost every week. Maybe he doesn't give you the 30, 40-point week every week, but he does produce for you in those catcher positions. So again, great to see him on this list. Alejandro Kirk, again, we didn't know how Toronto was really going to do with the bats this week. At least we knew Alejandro Kirk did his job. And then Miguel Vargas, welcome back to the list, right? And then again, Alec Bohm. This is a guy that the Phillies really didn't want at all. And all of a sudden, I feel like we talk about him periodically as well. So again, Alec Bohm, definitely relevant in the fantasy world still. still producing for a really good Phillies team, right? Trying to make a push. So not a bad guy to ride out if you're not already starting him already.
Right. And I got to tell you, I mean, our Monday show go over some really good streamers. And I mean, I don't want to get into streamers, but I will say, if you did lose a Tyler Soderstrom that you were playing at first because he's first outfield eligible, now you're going to scramble, man. And Alec Boehm is a pretty decent choice to pick up and put there in that first base position. Vinny P was another one. I got to tell you, and I don't want to go on a rant, but that Athletics team, I can't remember a time ever where a team has lost so many of its star players out for the year. Like, I honestly, like Shea Langoliers, Kurtz, Jacob Wilson, Tyler Soderstrom. Those are their 4 premier players. And whenever I think of honestly, when I think of anybody else, I just think of all underperformers, all people that probably could be playing in AAA rather than the majors. I mean, so I can't think of another team that's lost so many players in a year that contributed so much. I mean, Langoliers was a top catcher. Kurtz was a top first baseman. Jacob Wilson, for what he's worth, because he did hit the IL a couple of times, he still averaged 2.4, 2.5 a start. And Tyler Soderstrom, he had a horrible first month, but then he comes on and he ends up picking up a ton of that slack, and he finishes with like 2.5 an average a start. I mean, they're great numbers. And all 4 of those guys, I think it's going to be interesting to see where they're going to be ranked going into. I think you can get a really good deal on a lot of those. I would say on most of those players, because in fantasy, we talked about this last week, Mike, where you're really looking at how these players finish. So if they don't finish the year, they're kind of like out of sight. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, well, Soderstrom, he didn't finish a year. So it's like, well, I'm not really looking at the guys that got hurt throughout the year. I'm really looking at it who finished it. And so you might be able to get a really good bargain on some of those guys.
It's a really good point. I mean, a ton of injuries. We talk about it almost every week. And Doug, you've had a couple of these guys as well, so you know how much it hurts sometimes with these guys. I mean, especially with Jacob Wilson, just being a fantasy, like such a high floor for like that shortstop position, just because he doesn't strike out often. He's a swinger up there, and he does get you periodically walks as well. So it's like a pretty good guy to have, a contact hitter hitting in a pretty active A's lineup when they're fully healthy. But like you said, I forget the last time I've seen this many injuries at once for a team that really diminished their whole entire season. And they're so relevant too. All those guys that you mentioned, Doug, are all draftable people, especially like the Kurtz, right? He was, tabbed to be a breakout star pretty much this year, trying to go for like a 40 home run season, 100 RBIs. They're still playing in a minor league park, so there's a lot of runs to be scored there. Same thing with Tyler Soderstrom. It's just kind of been a rough year for them all around. Even on the mound as well. It's not like they're crushing it in pitching either. So, again, onward and upward to 2027, similar to the Kansas City Royals. We'll try again. They're both young teams, so they're bringing back most of their core. A couple, changes here and there, and then all of a sudden, maybe, who knows? It's a very weak AL. We learned that this year. That's for sure.
Yeah, I would say the thing that they really need to address is their pitching. Like, if they can come in and sign, I think they need at least 2. Excuse me. You still have Severino for a couple more years because he signed that 5-year, but he's not an ace. And
Jeffrey Springs too.
Like one.
He'll be on the contract, Jeffrey Springs. But other than that, like, hey, 2 major league starters. You'll probably have Gage jump, get the full rotation spot going into next year after being called up this year. He was one of their top guys, so we'll see if he can hold together a full season going into next year. And then, like you said, you still got 2 rotation spots that are pretty wide open.
Right. And honestly, those people you mentioned aren't really a 1 or a 2, in my opinion. They're like a 3, 4, and 5. And honestly, Jeffrey Springs to me is your 5th. He would be a guy I would most likely try to trade or transition to long bullpen relief or something. I don't think he's a starter anymore. He is older. He did look good at the beginning of the year. It was a great story. The A's were going. They actually looked like they were playoff bound, at least, the first 3 months of the year. But injuries just.
Yeah, I just think it's one of those things, like it's like both those guys, like Severino and Jeffrey Springs. It's like those guys, you hope for production. They're major league starters for sure, but I think really what they're there for is to eat innings. I think if you get 150 innings from each of them, that kind of alleviates some of the starts as well. You hope for the best with those guys because they've been around the block once or twice, but I think that's really what their jobs are. So you really do have to go out and maybe get yourself a performer. That's what they need, is an actual legit guy that you can say, I don't know what Sonny Gray's situation is right now. We talk about so many guys, but if he's on a contract year type, 1 year deal with the Sox here, I'm not sure what it was again. Like I said, that's an appealing person because he's a gamer, and yes, he's a little bit older, but he's a proven, frontline starter at this point. And I think that's kind of the guys that they would probably target too, without breaking the bank.
Yeah, that's a great point. So speaking of starting pitching, let's go into the hotter starting pitchers for the last 7 days. And I got to tell you, it is nice to see Toronto starting pitcher Shane Bieber here, who's only 21% owned, by the way. So he looks like he's finally rounding into form after a couple of rough starts to start out after injuries and whatnot plagued him for most of the year. Almost like a Garrett Cole type, not as dominant, but, it took Garrett Cole maybe, 3 or 4 starts to really find a groove. Shane Bieber is now about 4 or 5 starts in. Pretty good last 2 starts. 2-0, 13 innings pitched, 12 strikeouts, 2 earned, a walk, 46 points. And these are wins. Like, there's a difference between these are wins and then these are wins. These are statement wins. Yankees at home beat them. Then they go to Tampa and he beats the Rays at Tampa. So 2 really good starts against 2 AL East opponents. They're still in the hunt. They're not totally out of the wild card. I mean, the division went bye-bye a long time ago, but they still have a chance to make the playoffs. And then you got Royal starting pitcher Noah Cameron, 43% owned, 1-0, 9 innings, 8 strikeouts, no earned, a walk, 41.32 points, complete game shutout at Anaheim against the Angels. That's a team you probably wouldn't surprise you that someone did do a complete game shutout against. And then some honorable mentions. Red starting pitcher Chase Burns gave you 34. White Sox relief pitcher, starting pitcher eligible, Jose Urquidy. He's a former Astros pitcher, pretty good when he was healthy with them. So 32 points. Garrett Cole, Brandon Pfaadt, 31 points. Angels starting pitcher Reed Detmers, 29. And then last but not least, you had National starting pitcher Cave Cavalli with 28. So your studs are starting to pitch.
It's great to see, pretty popular names up here. Shane Bieber. Wow, let's go. Finally, we've been waiting for Shane Bieber, Doug. We've been talking about him for a second. We've kind of been up and down with him. We know he's struggling with the injuries the last couple of seasons here. But this is a great thing to see, even if it's just a short term for him, to finally really pick himself up. And I think the real encouraging thing is 13 innings and 1 walk. That's a big thing, especially when he first came back. I think he did walk like 3 or 4 guys, and it didn't perform well. So there's the control that's coming back there. So that's great to see from Shane. And again, it's not like Shane's an older guy, like a DeGrom or a Cole or anything like that. I believe Shane Bieber's Doug, about 30? I think 29 maybe even. He's older, yeah. Like he's not like, Chris Sale old, they're, I'm 36, so I can't really say I'm that, I'm Chris Sale's age, for Christ's sake. I'm calling him old. I'm old too. But Shane Bieber, he's got plenty of good time left. I think he's got a lot of years left. So I think to see this, I think it's encouraging going into next season. Like Doug says, we look at a lot of guys, how they finish in the second half and how strong they can. Again, if Shane Bieber can go out there, perform well, and then have a full bill of health going into next season, he's going to be a fun pick to have, especially from a bounce back team in Toronto, I think. They're going to address a few things, I think, offensively this offseason. Noah Cameron, I mean, awesome start, right? Complete game this week. Really just looked like a stud out there. We're knowing Cameron guys, that's someone that we've talked about in the past, especially streaming options. So great to see him go out there, have a game for himself. Reed Detmers, We talk about him almost often too. Unbelievable. There hasn't been a fall off yet. We know the control issues in this past, but this year he's putting up really good numbers. He's putting in the innings, he's getting strikeouts, and he's getting a lot of fantasy points. So you got to tip the cap there. Same thing with Cade Cavalier here. Or Crivelli, excuse me. Another game, just another monster. What, 11, 12 strikeouts this week in a game?
Yeah.
He's a pretty good pitcher. Yeah, I think next year, I think he's got some cleaning up to do from this year. He does give up a few extra walks than we like to see, but again, he has the stuff to be a frontline starter. So again, getting you a lot of points this year, in fantasy, it's been unreal. I think no one really had him really having a coming out party. I think, what does he have, Doug? Like almost 370, 380 points, which puts him, we're talking top 12, top 15 pitcher.
Yeah. I'm like scoreboard watching because the guy I'm playing has Jesus Luzardo. And what did I tell you, Mike? I said, hopefully someone at least gives a couple runs in the sixth. And who hits the 2-run shot in the sixth? Jordan Walker.
That's not the right list, Doug. That's not the right list.
Start. That's all right. That's all right. Let's talk about the who's not and get to the right list. All right.
Let's get to the who's not.
All right. So there they are. I mean, some surprises, some not surprises. I think more of the surprises are with the hitting than the pitching, but let's just start breaking it down. So first and foremost, you got Padres outfielder Jackson Merrill, 87% owned, 0.95, no homers, no ribbies, 3 runs, 10 strikeouts, 1 stolen base, -1 point. Tigers catcher DH Dylan Dingler, 89.7% owned, 0.87, no homers, 1 ribby, no runs, 7 strikeouts, no stolen bases, -1 point. You do have some honorable mentions on here. Red shortstop Ellie De La Cruz gave you 0. Cubs outfield Ian Happ. Angels outfield Mike Trout gave you 1. Braves third baseman Austin Riley. Mariners outfield DH Tyler Ward. And Phillies DH Kyle Schwarber. And Dodgers outfielder Kyle Tucker all gave you 2. And then last but not least, Ozzie Albies, and then Brandon Nimmo gave you 3. So not too bad. I think the theme with the who's not is those guys that strike out and don't, like we always say, they strike out and they don't produce anywhere else. They hurt you. I mean, you're seeing it now. We're going to talk about De La Cruz later on. He had 13 strikeouts this week. Merrill has 10. Dylan Dingler has 7. Like, these are guys that are just striking out at least once a game more. But, if they're not producing, this is what you're going to get. And we all know the story with Merrill. We know it with Cruz. We know it with Riley. We know it with, all these guys. Kyle Schwarber. It's just a common theme.
Yeah, you nailed it. It's the strikeouts. It's the strikeouts. It's the strikeouts. And if they're not producing, they have such a low floor. It absolutely wrecks you. A guy like Jackson Merrill, right? We knew he had a bad first half. We know he was having fantastic second half, especially going into last week. And then again, you just hit a wall sometimes. You just go through a slump. And I think this is what Jackson Merrill is going through right now. And it's not pretty either. So like we said, the strikeouts catch up with you sometimes. I'm a victim of it as well. I got Jackson Merrill in a league, as you know, Doug. And I've been raving about it. I'm not bragging about it this week. Dylan Dingler, look. Dylan Dingler's been pretty good this year so far. I was just looking at his stats earlier today, and it was like 450 at-bats. So he's like right on par to have 600 at-bats, which is a full season. He's got 26 home runs and 80 RBIs. Like, that's impressive. That's pretty under the radar, if you ask me, up in Detroit with Dylan Dingler. So, again, he's still batting. His OPS is over 800 still. So, again, overall, really good year. But, again, it's the strikeouts that catch up with him. He's not hitting and no home runs this week. So, again, that's just going to always kind of be a bad formula for your fantasy team when it points. It's just kind of how it is. We talk about Schwarber all the time. We were just on the hot list. We were just talking about him. Now we're going to talk about him again, just not on the same list. It's just that's how it goes with these guys sometimes. And it's I don't know, Doug. What do you think? Is it safer at times to draft guys that that just aren't going to strike out if strikeouts are a penalty in your leagues? Or is it beneficial to chase one of those guys like a Schwarber? Because I think he's a really good example for this question. And do you get the all the benefits from him that you think you're really getting, or does he hurt you in more weeks? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Would you rather have more consistency, I guess, per week, or would you rather have those monster weeks and then these falls?
I mean, you know me, I'm a guy who loves consistency. But, I mean, I'll say what I always say, right? I agree if you want one of those guys. Like, let's get a guy who's all or nothing, but just one, like an Olsen, like De La Cruz, like a Kyle Schwarber. Let's get one, and that's it. Because if you have 3 or 4 of those guys on your team, I mean, you're going to get crushed. Absolutely get crushed. You're going to lose more than you win. So just imagine, right? Let's just say you build a team like that. Listen, I'm going to get De La Cruz. I'm going to get Kyle Schwarber. I'm going to draft Jackson Merrill. Who else? I mean, they're great players, but you know what they do. And the last 7 days, you have 3 of those players, and you got like 2 points from all 3 of them combined. I'd rather just stick with one of them. And they're all early. Jackson Merrill's not an early pick, but De La Cruz would be, Kyle Schwarber would be. You're talking about guys that are going around the 3rd or 4th round. So I don't know. I don't think I'm going to talk about De La Cruz later on, but I don't want to spoil it. But I
know what you mean, though, by that. I don't exactly, like you said, Matt Olson's also a great example of that, too. Because, again, he can hit you 40, 45 home runs, have 110, 120 RBIs on a really, really hot year, and then the strikeouts don't even matter. And all of a sudden, he's still scoring you 20, 25 points a week. And he might only have a handful of those really bad weeks. But then, the other thing, too, is the regression. I always think about that as well. That could always go the other way. With like a Kyle Schwarber. Again, Matt Olson. Those guys aren't like young bucks anymore. They're eventually going to go the other way, I think. Maybe not in the near future, but again, it's just those type of guys you got to, keep an eye on long term.
I do have to say, though, like I've noticed Matt Olson in like the last couple of years. We all know he's streaky, but I feel like he's gotten like when he's not going for a while. This second half, I don't think I've seen him on the hot list. He had a great first half. I haven't seen him on the hot list once. I don't even think it was an honorable mention yet. So that tells me he's not really producing at the level he was this first half. So he's taken a step back. So that's the other thing, right? They're getting older. These slumps might last longer. I mean, look at Judge. Like his slumps to me have lasted pretty long. You're talking months. I mean, last year, months into the playoffs. You're like, the older they get, it's tougher for them to get out of those slumps. And I think maybe that's another reason why you'd be a little hesitant on draft day to get some of them. I mean, look at Freddie Freeman. Like, yeah, he's having a pretty good year, but he's striking out a lot more than he usually does. A lot more. I mean, I looked yesterday, I think he had 3 strikeouts. Like, that's more than a Freddie Freeman that I've known. He's still posting up great numbers, but he's older. His bat's slowing down a little bit. So I don't know if I would waste an early pick on him next year.
Yeah, I think him, Altuve, I think is also a good example there too. We see that dip this year, especially in fantasy. Again, people had him in top 5 categories at one point. Can you believe it or not? And at second base, but it's tough. You gotta be ahead of the game. I feel though, but like you said, I'd rather have consistency rather than get crucified on the strikeout all day, every day.
Yep. And I will tell you this. I know we're like kind of just jumping around everywhere, but you're talking consistency. And to me, the most consistent, underrated player is Luis Arias.
I know.
I'm telling you. I mean, he's hitting home runs now in Philly. I think he's got 2 since he's been there, which is almost his what he had. He doubled his season output, I think, in just 2 weeks. It's crazy. I think
he looks great.
I'm telling you, like, he's never that guy, but when he's in a lineup surrounded by guys that are that guy, like he just takes it to another level. Like you've seen it when he was with the Padres. Like, yeah, he looked great, but you're going to Philly and you got Bryce Harper, and you got Kyle Schwarber, and you got all these other guys, you're taking it up another notch, and he is not slowed down at all. He looks amazing in that lineup, and I think it was just a 1-year deal, so this is a rental for them. But with his versatility, with how he bats, you would be the dumbest person in the world. Dave Dombrowski would be an idiot to not at least offer this guy, and he's still young. I want to say he's 28, right?
29, yep.
Why not offer him a 3-year contract at this point? I mean,
gonna get
he plays all these positions. Trey Turner, he's been on the IL on and off. You could always move him to shortstop once in a while if you need to, or second base and have your second baseman move to, like, he's just so versatile. You can move him around everywhere in the infield. He deserves it. If there's a guy that deserves a big contract, it's him, man. He's produced everywhere he's gone. Even when his numbers didn't look good, even when he was batting 280, like, he still gave you hits and runs. And, it's just, there's facets to his game that he'll never do. He'll never hit you 20 home runs. He'll never steal you 30, 25 bases, but he'll still do enough to help you reach a win, to help everybody else around him look so much better. I'm a huge fan of him. He is on my target. I'm in Terminator mode for drafts next year. And when I'm scanning and I see the name and I'm locked in, Luis Arias. Luis Arias is the man.
Luis Arias, he's got 6 home runs already this year. And I think the big factor with him too is really it's batting in that cleanup spot. That bat in that cleanup spot just changes everything. And it's funny because everyone online is like, well, why didn't they do that before? Why didn't anyone do that before? Hey, great question. Why didn't they do it before? He looks like a leadoff man. I think that's what the people think. Oh, he's a contact hitter leadoff man.
Yep.
Hey, very fair. But man, when you put him behind, like you said, a Harper and Trey Turner, and then he just knocks these guys in left and right. I mean, the RBI numbers are going to go up. Everything's going to go up for him. Like you said, the power's already going up. So he looks great. I'm looking right now, Doug, in our Bourbon N Ball league, he was drafted by me at 117. Pick 117. It's a 12-teamer. So we're talking 10th, 11th round, really.
Yeah.
That's a great value. And I think next year, I think you cut that in half. I think that's more 4th, 5th round. Going into next year, especially with the versatility at first and second base.
My only hesitation would be, let's see where he signs. Like, if he goes back to Philly and they end up signing him for a 3-year contract, which, like I said, you said 29, right? Bring him to 31, 32.
Yep.
To me, that's perfect. To me, it makes sense for that team, for him. And I would be all in to even reach for him in drafts. But if he's going on a 2-year deal or whatever to the A's, right? Because Jeff McNeil, I mean, you have some second – they do need help at second base over there. Maybe they do want to – hey, you know what? This guy is an affordable guy. He's an option. He's almost like a Josh Naylor type. Let's, don't have to go all in and spend crazy kinds of money. Let's get him. Let him, solidify this lineup. I don't know if I would draft him as early as I would if he was a staple in that Phillies lineup.
That's fair. I think that's a fair assessment there. I think the team always does matter where you are playing. And Dave Dombrowski would be a kind of a boob not to do it, right? I mean, that guy just fits the team so well, just so well. And again, you'll probably, not have maybe Alec Bowen over there again because, again, he was looking to get shopped this past offseason. So I don't know if that's still a thing next year. So they might even bring in someone else. That's a veteran bat, a pretty good pop bat, into that lineup as well. So who knows? Philly, especially with Dombrowski, moon's the target. You can go as high as you can with that man at the GM helm. He'll spend all your money and your prospects.
He'll win you a championship though, or try to.
He'll damn try to. That's for sure. He does try, but just at what cost at times. That's what we always say with Mr. Dombrowski. But hey, go for it when you can. We always say that.
Well, here's some guys that he might be able to get. For at least Freddie Peralta. But let's just jump right into the pitcher side of this, right?
Let's talk Freddie.
You got Mariners starting pitcher George Kirby, who's 88% owned. I mean, that entire Mariners rotation, it's like man, it's almost like they gave up. They're like, you know what? We don't have the offense behind us, so who gives a hoot how bad we are? Who cares? It's just everybody's just falling on their face. But Kirby specifically, so 2 starts, 0-1, 8 innings, 5 strikeouts, 11 earned, 5 walks, -7 points on the week. His first start, I mean, they were good starts. Don't get me wrong. He was at Houston against the Astros. Then he was at Milwaukee against the Brewers. But still, I mean, you expect better results from a guy can produce better results. So a little head scratching what's going on with that rotation. And then Rays starting pitcher Freddie Peralta, who's now only 70% owned. I mean, man, you're talking about a guy that started out the year 95, 96% owned, is now 70%, 0-1 in his start, 4 2/3, 2 strikeouts, 2 earned, 3 walks, -2 points versus the Orioles at home. To me, that was a start that on paper at least looked like a decent win. It kind of almost goes by what I told you earlier, Mike. I feel like if it's a lost year, it's a lost year. I don't think the destination is going to really help him much. I think just next year you kind of hit the reset button and pray for better results for him. And I think the way he's looking, it looks like that's his mindset. It's like, let's just get this year over with. Let's just battle through it and then figure out what to do next year and start over and hopefully sign with a better team where I can prove myself. I don't know. I just think this year is just a lost year for him. And then some honorable mentions here. You got Sean Burke, who only gave you 0.08. Astros Hunter Brown gave you 0.04. Then you had Cubs starting pitcher Kevin Gausman, who's now day-to-day. Pirates Paul Skeens, 4 points. Tigers relief starting pitcher Troy Melton gave you 5. And then last but not least, you had Marlins starting pitcher Sandy Alcantara and Red Sox starting pitcher Peyton Toley with 5.4. And I do want to say this Sandy Alcantara, whatever's going on with Miami, the hot and miss, it's so bizarre. It's almost like they're just going to wheel him out there until his arm just flies off and runs away from his body. He is on pace to pitch over 200 innings from a guy who last year did not pitch anywhere close to that. So they're not in it. And it just makes me scratch my head why they continue to run this guy out. Not just 6 innings, 7 innings, 8 innings. When you're not, when the game's not even close and he's still going out there. I don't know. It's head scratching. Maybe they're just like, let's just run him into the ground and trade him to the next team next year. But I don't like it. I don't like it. It's almost like the White Sox, what the White Sox did with Crochet a couple of years ago, when they should have probably just shut him down because they weren't even in it.
They still rolled him out in starts. They did it way too late for sure. But yeah, the Sandy situation is interesting. He's Mr. Miami, so he's really like their main attraction when going to a game. I feel like they have to keep him out there sometimes. And he's really what he's supposed to be though. Former Cy Young. He's an ace. He's supposed to go out there 7-8 innings. But again, if you're not playing for anything, why risk your investment, right? That just doesn't really quite make sense. But let's go back to Freddie Peralta. What about the Freddie Peralta experience, huh? Who loves it? I know I do. Not. But again, he's 4 innings. He's 4 Ks tonight, 2 earned runs, gave up a home run. He's got the lead right now. So it's about a Freddie Peralta start as you can get right there. He's also given up 5 hits. So he's on pace to have another Freddie Peralta game, give or take, 6, 7 hits, maybe go 6, maybe just go 5. His pitch count looks pretty decent so far, but again, it's just not the same guy that we've seen in the past. Like you said, Doug, it's probably chalk it up to next year when you're a fantasy owner. I think if you're Freddie Peralta and I think if you're the Tampa Bay Rays, I think you're trying to get him right for the playoffs. I think that's more realistic. I think that's what really the main focus and goal is for a guy like this. What do you got?
So I'm going to ask you a question. You're the GM, or no, not you're the manager, right? You're the manager. Mm-hmm. You got Freddie Peralta, who's limping his starts into the playoffs. You know what he's capable of. You've got enough quality starting pitchers behind you to go out and start a 6-game series, right? Do you move Freddie Peralta to the bullpen, or do you keep him as a starter?
I think it's a good question. I think if you're the Rays, you're gonna have Drew Rosman go out there first, probably. You could argue probably Nick Martinez will go out there second over Shane. I think those are pretty reversible. And then you got the fourth starter. And I think the fourth starter would be like a Freddie Peralta going in. But the thing is, though, with Freddie and playoff pitching, too, as we know, short leash. You got to have a short leash. You can't let games get out of hand, especially if you're pitching in a game 4 or anything like that. So I would do one of two things. I'd probably, again, inverse these, interchangeable. You would have Freddie go out there, and if he starts rocking, then all of a sudden you got Griffin Jacks that can go out there. Griffin Jacks is stretched out. He can go out there, and he's not unfamiliar coming out of the bullpen either, obviously starting his career in the bullpen. So that's not an issue. Or you could do the Griffin Jacks experience and say, hey, put Griffin out there for 2 innings, and then you have Freddie piggyback off that. I just still haven't seen Freddie Peralta do that yet. So is that something that they want to maybe experiment throughout, toward the end of the year, and then all of a sudden you put him into this bulk role instead of a starting role? I'm not opposed to it. I think both those options are very on the table for sure.
The only reason I say that is because I've noticed Ian Seymour going out there,
Mm-hmm.
and he's usually the guy that's on a short leash. He'll go out. He's almost like an opener, what they call him. He'll go 2 or 3 innings. But I've been looking at his starts, and they've been keeping him in there 5, almost 6. He hasn't looked bad. I think last start he had over 7 strikeouts or just around 7 strikeouts. So I'm thinking they might want him to be that fourth pitcher and then do something between Freddie and Jax like you're talking about. That, to me, just the way it looks like it's shaping up with Ian Seymour staying out there, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, you could have that too. I mean, I feel like Ian Seymour and Griffin Jacks, maybe you give Ian Seymour the little bit of a nudge on that, but I think they're very similar players for sure. But as long as you can compete in those games, that all those pitchers, I'm talking about Shane, I'm talking about Drew, if you can get into the back of the bullpen, Tyler Wells has looked awesome so far in that setup role, and you have Bob Baker crushing it in the closer role. What happened? What do you got over there?
Well, I got to tell you, just Freddie Peralta just gave up 5 earned.
Whoa!
4 2/3.
I just refreshed.
Pete Alonso just hit a 2-run shot.
So when I looked, it was 60 pitches, now 72 pitches, and we got a different story. So Freddie Peralta, we nailed it. We just said Freddie Peralta's right on pace to have a Freddie Peralta game. 5 earned runs. I mean,
5 strikeouts.
That's not the first time, especially in a Rays uniform. This is the second time in his 4 starts that he's given up 5.
That's why I would be hesitant to run him out there. And like you said, I mean, I don't know, man. Do you want him to go out there and be an opener and go 2 innings, or do you want him to be that long relief to maybe come into the 3rd, 4th, 5th? Honestly, I'd probably rather have him just be an opener. His first couple innings aren't bad. It's like when he gets the 2nd and 3rd time through that order, they just crush him.
Yep.
So,
but the thing is, though, you have him open, and then all of a sudden you have Griffin Jacks, and then you could still have Ian Seymour, and those guys can throw multiple innings on multiple days too. You're not asking for 5 innings from both of those guys in the same day, right? So you could easily have, I think, those 3 guys stretched out across, a few days that can pitch. I don't see a problem with that. I really don't. And then also Tyler Wells used to be a starter. So if he does need to go that 2nd inning for them, he has that potential too. I love the Rays setup right now, not just because I'm here in Clearwater, but it's looking like a pretty dang good team, and it should be shaping up for a pretty good run.
Yeah, I mean that'll be when the season's over, maybe we can start breaking some of that stuff down on some episodes of, maybe like what the wild card game would look like, what the ALDS might look like, and that kind of stuff. That'd be kind of fun to do a deep dive into bullpens and rotation setups and stuff like that.
Yeah, break it down.
All right, so let's talk about some overperformers and underperformers, and if we think they can keep it up. And this one, we were talking about it. Obviously, it's the A's. Jeff McNeil, first base, outfield eligible, is only 70% owned, 7%, 7.9%. That's it. great week, man. He hit 409, even gave you 2 homers, 7 ribbies, only just 1 strikeout, 27 points, 4.5 a start. I mean, he's had a horrible year. He's averaging 1.7. He's got 6 homers, but he does have 43 ribbies, 35 runs, and 6 stolen bases. 264 average, just 44 strikeouts. I mean, he's had an amazing week. Obviously, I don't think he can keep up this pace, but I do think he'll finish the year with pretty strong numbers for the A's. Not this strong, but strong enough to start. There were fun stories start the year. Obviously, they're out of the playoffs by a huge margin. They lost pretty much half their team this year. Like we talked about, one of the most injured teams in 2026, Kurt Langoliers, Soderstrom, Jacob Wilson. Honestly, they can't catch a break. But all those injuries leave the door open for more playing times, like McNeil, right? Who's now going to play every day. Lawrence Butler, who really hasn't looked horrible either, he's going to play every day. So with playoffs coming, you're going to be looking for guys that can play every day, that can fill those holes. And a McNeil, even a Zach Geloff, those guys are going to be sat. So why not just get them? I mean, it's a shame. But again, you talk about next year's draft and what's going to happen to like a Tyler Soderstrom, who really turned it on before getting hurt after a really slow start, where they're going to go. But as far as overperforming right now, I mean, you can't ask for any more than a McNeil or a Geloff and what they're doing with what little they have. I mean, a team is really hurting when you're running out of lineup with Jeff McNeil, Zach Geloff, and Lawrence Butler. But like I said, they're going to play every day. They're going to get every day at bats. They're going to be run out there. I think it's a good time to maybe pick them up and start them. I mean, it's a pleasant surprise this week. That's what I'm saying.
I think I'm looking at the last 30 days with Jeff McNeil, and I mean, he's averaging 2.8 points a game. That's startable in a lot of leagues. And, obviously from Devers just hit a home run. Of course he did. Bothers me so much. Jeff McNeil, 67 points in the last 30 days. He's had a pretty good second half as well, even dating back into July. So he's kind of found his stride finally. And like you said, he's going to be playing every day with these guys moving forward. Is there a lot of support in that lineup? Not really. Like you said, Lawrence Butler's been playing pretty good. Zach Geloff's maybe their other pretty good player that's been pretty decent so far. He might be someone also that you also keep an eye on too, for the rest of the year. He's just kind of been around in that organization for a minute. He used to be a former top prospect, maybe a little bit of a late bloomer, but again, it's all about the opportunity. So I think this kind of maybe goes hand in hand with Jeff McNeil. But again, they signed him for a reason. We knew he was going to be playing in that minor league park. This guy's the real deal, I think, in the second half here, and the numbers show for it too. So, I think underrated right now, overperforming. Let's call it whatever you want. I'm picking him up, and I'm probably going to play him.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, when your lineup has got hurt with so many injuries, you got to kind of go with the flow. And to me, these guys you're talking about, they're rosterable. At the very least rosterable, especially when they play so many, every single guy out there, McNeil, Geloff, they're like all of them play 3 positions. It's crazy. So not a bad idea to just at least pick them up. At the end of the year, they're going to have favorable matchups. They're going to be playing within division, which is this very stinky division. So why not just roll the dice? All right. Another good surprise over here. Let's see if this guy can keep it up. Bam, I had to throw him in here. Let me tell you something, man. Dodgers starting pitcher Blake Snell, 85% on 1-0, 6 innings, 5 strikeouts, 1 earned, 3 walks, 21 points at Colorado. I know it shouldn't be a surprise, but he's been balls to the wall, man, since being activated. There's been no bump in the road with his first 2 starts, and I really don't see there being one going forward. With all the time that he's missed, it's crazy. 2 starts, 2 quality starts, 1 earned, going 1-0. I mean, their starts, he probably should dominate, right? I mean, Kansas City, Rockies, he's winning the starts he should. But we've seen pitchers get hit around just a little when missing that much time. So to see him go out and dominate is just a great sign for fantasy owners, I think, especially for someone you drafted him in the 11th round. Imagine this, 11th round. The Dodgers do it right. have these guys sit out most of the year, come back at the end of the year, right before the playoffs, and just dominate. I mean, it's like Dave Roberts owns these guys in his fantasy team, and he does it on purpose. But either way, you roll him out every week. He's going to continue. I mean, I know it's like, to me, it is a surprise that he's going on dominating, but it's not, if that makes any sense, right? Because you know what he's capable of doing. It's just surprising that he's doing it so fast right out of the gate.
Yeah, we talk about the Dodgers and how they kind of handle their pitching these last, 3-4 years now, that they're going on this run. And again, we've talked about it from day one with these guys. They're so deep, they're so good that there's absolutely no rush for these guys to come back when they're hurt. Or they can take, an extra 3 weeks, just to rest or whatever they want to do because they have so much depth. And they prove it year in and year out. And this is why we thought when Blake Snell, when he came back, he wasn't going to have to be on my bench for a week to see how he did. They waited long enough. They stretched him out long enough to have him go out there and just be him normal self. And that is a lot to say, and this is like, Doug, like a 10%er, 5%er. This doesn't happen often with pitching when people come back from the IL. We talk about it all the time where we want to say, hey, he's back. That's great, but we want to pump the brakes real quick here. Blake Snell, that is not the case. And he looks awesome again. Former Cy Young winner. I mean, he has been awesome for the Dodgers when he is healthy. So again, it's not really a surprise, but man, it's good to see him back 100% and just to see him do his thing. And he's still relatively young too. He's not, again, I'm not talking like, a Chris Sale age or a DeGrom. So he's got many years left, I think, and I'm still in that Dodger uniform. And again, now that, we're talking to the end of the season, it's August 21st. We're a couple weeks away from fantasy playoffs. Man, if you held on to him, you got yourself a little bit of a starting pitching, little number 1 and 2 guy going on. So again, Blake Snell, I wish I picked him in our league, Doug, obviously. I went the Hunter Green route. That was wrong. And, now it's paying off dividends for these guys that did draft him.
I will say the Dodgers are one of the few teams where, you go out and you start a Blake Snell regardless of who he's going up against or if it's his first start off the IL. Tyler Glasnow, to me, is the same. I think when he gets back, I don't think you're having him sit on your bench for the first start. I think you're putting him in there and you're starting him.
I think you're right. I think, again, he's been on rehab, I feel like, for 2 months, pitching in the minors. But I mean, when he does come back, why wouldn't you not expect him to have, everything going on for him? They're taking, again, their time with him. It's just incredible. It's, I'm sure there's 31 other teams that are very jealous of this right now. This is, it's a benefit to have something like this on your team. It's not.
And he's been dominating in his rehab starts too, Tyler Glasnow. I think he struck out 8 in his last start. So,
and the thing is too, is when he comes back, and now you got Blake Snell. I know they've been around the block, but there's not a lot of like information on him for this year. You see these guys pitch, maybe 4 or 5 times against a team because they play them, 4 or 5 times in that division. But now you don't know what you're going to see in the playoffs because you don't see a lot of them during the regular season anyway at this point. You just know they're very good pitchers. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. I really do hope that Blake Snell really just comes down here and just crushes it, for the rest of the year. He's it's hard to come back from injuries like that year in, year out and still perform at a very, very high level at the same time. We've seen so many guys come back from injuries, like a Brandon Woodruff, for instance. It's a long time and it's a lot of work, and then to go out there and then pitch at that same elite level, like a top 20, top 15, even top 10, like we're talking like with Blake Snell right now. Just it's not easy. So I just hope he keeps it up. And same thing with Glasnow when he comes back too.
All right, so let's talk about some not good surprises this week. And look at that. Ooh. Got the little fire bat right there, right? It's like a match. Unfortunately, he's not on fire. So we're talking about red shortstop Elly De La Cruz, 98% owned. I mean, his numbers on the week, like I said, 138, no homers, a ribby, 3 runs, did give you a stolen base, give you 12 strikeouts, give you 0 points. Like we said earlier, right? You always say when these guys, with these hit or miss players, when they're hitting, they look great. They score enough points to offset the strikeouts, but when they're not going, they look rough. And De La Cruz, to me, is on the top of that list. Him, Schwerber, Alonso, even PCA, they all have that in common. But for Cruz, and having this come now, this is not a great surprise. This is not, if you own him, this is not what you want, right? Especially when you're fighting for a playoff spot. I mean, still pretty good on the year. I mean, he's averaging 2.5. That's all right. I feel like, people probably were expecting over 3 points a start from him like before. He's 20 for 20. He's a 2020 season, which is great. He does have a 259 average. He's 133 strikeouts, right on pace with where he should be, right? But I will say, and I will admit, I do think he was drafted exactly where he should have been. Potential, and you see Austin Riley being put in a CBS Sports League that this guy should be a top 5 third baseman. So De La Cruz, him going in the 5th round, to me, that is a little surprising. I'm surprised he didn't go in the 3rd or even the 2nd. So I do think that's where he belongs. He's a 5th or 6th rounder, in my opinion. But if you do own him now, you really pray he can pick it up. I mean, yeah, the Reds are pretty much out of the playoffs. So if he does get hurt or something happens to him, they probably could just rest him for the rest of the year. So that's something else you want to keep an eye on. These teams that are out of it, they're like the A's. When a guy gets hurt, they're just going to take him and they're going to sit him for the rest of the year like they did with Jacob Wilson. So that's something to just watch. But I will say, this is not the time you want these guys going cold, for sure, man.
No, we talked about the category of guys striking out a lot, and that can hurt you in weeks and stuff. Ellie is definitely one of those guys. The nice thing about Ellie De La Cruz, though, is the consistency he's been showing these last 3 seasons. Obviously, his rookie season is just kind of part-time, kind of feeling it out, right? So really, when you get into your full season, he's played 160 games, 162 games. So the health is great. It's great to see that. His average is between 259, 264, all 3 seasons to this point so far. We're talking 20-plus home runs every season. We're talking 30, 40. Even one season he had 60 stolen bases. So the bases are still there. And the strikeouts are all about the same. Like, we're talking about someone that's Mr. Consistency over here in Ellie De La Cruz. So it's kind of nice because sometimes you do know what you want to get. And you know what you're going to get with some of these guys. And like you said, Doug, you only want maybe 1 or 2 of these guys that flame up and flame down at the same time, in a week or 2. They can win you weeks, and then sometimes they can also lose you weeks. But if you only have 1 or 2 of them, they're not going to do total damage to you. So Ellie De La Cruz, I think, is in that same category where you have to consider the good with the bad. But at the end of the year, you're going to get between 400 and 420 points. And, that's really what it comes down to at the end is the points. So, same thing when I was drafting like a Brent Roker. Obviously he's out for the season too. I
completely forgot about him.
I did too. So again, before going into this year, though, if you look at his last, 4 seasons, he's around, 390 to 410, 420 points. So De La Cruz just kind of falls in that kind of same category for me. Oh my God, Brent Roker. Forgot about that.
Another name. 5. The half your lineup. Half your lineup.
That's bad.
See, and if we forgot about him, just imagine what's going to happen on draft day, right?
That's right.
We kind of forget about him. All right, so let's look at pitchers, and not so good week, not so good coming back from the IL. Astros starting pitcher Hunter Brown, 90% owned, 0-1, 5 innings, 5 strikeouts, 2 earned, 5 walks. Didn't even give you a half a point, gave you a 0.4 versus Seattle. Seattle of all teams to hit the bucket on. I felt like this was a start where Brown would go out and just completely dominate, right? You got Seattle's offense. They've been struggling. They've been struggling for a while, the last month almost, right? They do strike out a lot. So to me on paper, this looked like this had the potential of being a great start. However, it did not go as planned. And honestly, his season has not gone to plan, especially since being activated. I mean, the guy is averaging 9 points a start, He's going 3-3. 68 innings pitched, 72 strikeouts, and 40 walks. A lot of walks, right? He's had some great starts, but much more bad than good. Definitely not the numbers of someone people drafted in the third round. I mean, you see the walks. He also gives up almost a home run every game. He's got 9 home runs in the last 10 games. You add that with the walks, that's not a recipe for greatness. That's a recipe for disaster. And he's given up more than 3 earned just twice in his last 11 games. He's gone 2-3 in 11 games, 2-3. I wonder if last year was maybe a one-off, right? Where he's just a great pitcher. Maybe let me take a step back. I think he's a good pitcher. I don't think he's a great pitcher. I don't think he might not be an ace. People think he is. I'm not entirely writing him off, but he should not be drafted that early next year. He is not a guy based off of this year that you would draft that early. To me right now, you see where he's going to finish at the end of the year. That'll determine, obviously, if he has a strong finish, that'll improve where he's going to get drafted. But as far as now, I don't think he's that 1B to a 1A. I really think he's a guy that goes after a Yamamoto, that to me might set the benchmark. He might be like a 2 or 3. I don't think he's the 1. And like I said, I mean, last year he pitched like an ace, but he did it for his first full year, and he hasn't done it since. And like I said, I'm not going to write him off. It's only his second full year, right, doing this. But it's going to be interesting to see how he's going to finish and what's going to happen the rest of the year.
Yeah, definitely not the right year for him so far to this point. I'm just trying to see where he was drafted in our Bourbon League. And he was the first pick of the third round. So we're talking in the wheelhouse of, after Sanchez and Sale go, now it's Hunter Brown, now it's Brandon Wu, now it's Max Fried, now it's Freddie Peralta, right? So that he was in that same exact group. I would put him with like the Max Fried group, after that wave of like true frontline starters, like Sanchez and like Sale, Hunter Brown. Obviously, with his age being pretty young, you expected, the up and up to continue to happen with him to this point. But again, that hasn't happened yet because of some of the injuries. And since he's come back, it's been really erratic. And we thought maybe he was back for a little bit. Maybe he was for like a week or two. But now he's just kind of just all over the place. And I think with him, sometimes, and I'll be quick with it, is the composure. He's out there. He's got a lot of emotion out there. And when you're coming back from injuries, you got to be patient. You got to find your accuracy again. That doesn't come overnight. And, maybe he's a little anxious. He's trying to win baseball games out there too. But the walks are definitely a concern. I think that's something we're going to have to look at for the rest of the year with him. Is he a bona fide starter every week? I don't know anymore. I'm just really not sure. Yeah. I'm not signing up every single week to put Hunter Brown in my lineup, even though I know they're in a pennant race and he's going to be in front of it. But, Hunter Brown next year, definitely not a third rounder. I think you back that up maybe about 3 or 4 rounds. I think the 7th, 8th round, we do know what the potential is. A full healthy offseason going into it, that would also be beneficial for him. So I'd say maybe in that 6th, 7th, 8th round realm, if you said, I want to reach for a Hunter Brown because I think he's going to bounce back, I'm not going to, blink an eye really too much about that.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe the 6th. To me, the 6th sounds about right. He like a guy that would go after like a De La Cruz, you go De La Cruz in the 5th, then you come back around. Hunter Brown, to me, that looks like right around the time he should go.
Yeah, I know we're up against it, Doug, but I'd be remiss not to ask you. We got Cade Anderson coming up this weekend, pitching Saturday. What are your expectations with him so far? What are you going to look for?
Can I just tell you, if you look back at our episodes, we were talking about him in the Seattle Mariners staff. We said, what's going to happen? They're going to trade Luis Castillo, and who's going to come up and take that rotation spot? Cade Anderson. So look what happened. I think Seattle's in desperation mode. I think they're trying to do anything they can to just jumpstart the team, jumpstart the staff, and this is the only thing they can think of. Hey, let's bring in one of the best pitching prospects we have in baseball, and let's have him see if maybe he can jolt some competition into this. I think it's a good call. I don't know what his leash is going to be. Man, I think if he goes 5, gives up 2 or 3, strikes out 8, that's a great start.
I agree. I think
That's a great start.
That's success. I think that's success.
Yep.
I think a realistic line for me, I'm thinking 4 and 2/3, maybe 3 earned runs, 4 or 5 Ks. First game, game jitters. He is jumping from AA to major leagues as well. I know the whole, thing with Seattle and AAA and pitching and where they are and stuff, it doesn't work out. I get it. But that is kind of a big jump of competition as well. So
the only reason I said 8 is because I'm like, okay, well, he's electric, right? He throws hard. No one's really seen him in the major league level. So I think that's more of a benefit to him right now. I don't know. I think when you're a pitcher and you're that, you're ranked that high, you're just a confident, cocky guy, and you go out and you let it rip. And I just feel like that's what he's going to do.
I mean, this whole year he looks like a stud. He probably feels like a stud.
Yeah.
So he probably thinks he's a stud. If it barks, if it walks on 4 feet, it's probably a dog.
Right. I mean, I'll be watching it. I'm excited for them. I hope it is the boost that they want and they desperately need. Honestly, that team, I could talk on that team for an entire hour.
We could do a full episode, Doug.
Oh my God. It's like, dude, if they had a decent general manager, man, just imagine if a Dave Dabrowski was the general manager of the Seattle Mariners, the changes that he would do and the people and the great players that he would bring in. Even he'd destroy your team in doing it, but he'd at least make your team competitive for 3 years.
He would. And I do think they're going to blow it up. I think the GM's going. I think President of Ops is going. I think they got to restart, and they got some money that is going to be tied up. Actually, I looked at J-Rod contract after we talked earlier this week. It's actually pretty team friendly. He's one of those Acuna offer trades type deals. So
trash.
Yeah, I think he's actually getting paid for what he's actually worth. If that makes sense.
It does. I was going to tell you he shouldn't be worth that much, but
no, it's not. It's not that great.
So all right, man. So we were able to talk about some the hottest and coldest hitters from this past week, the last 7 days, and some overperformer, underperformers that we think might still continue to perform at a decent level, which was fun, and some that might not. Unfortunately, the Hunter Browns of the world might not for the rest of the year. But yeah, we ended up having a great discussion on all that stuff. Like I said, we could probably talk for a couple more hours, but unfortunately, we don't have the time. And it's Friday night. And yeah. So don't forget to watch us. Monday, we drop our lineup episode where we talk about sleepers, great hitting matchups, bad hitting matchups, great pitching matchups, bad pitching matchups, all that stuff that's going to make you successful into what could be your last week into the playoffs. So I know 12-team leagues, next week is pretty much the last week of the regular season. Then you hop right into playoffs. So if it's a must-win week, you need to set yourself up for success. So you might want to listen. Not saying you pick up everybody we say you pick up, but if you do have an extra roster spot where you need a player, why not take a listen? Why not pick them up? I mean, I've picked up a lot of the players we've suggested, and they've actually been pretty good. So the Sean Maneas of the world, the people that are only owned in like 10 to 15% of the leagues, give them a look. And we're going to do that for you on Monday. So tune into that.
You suggested Jake Bowers 1 week, and I have not dropped him since I've picked him up. He's been productive in that lineup. So we got stats to back it up.
And we eat what we make.
That's fair. That's fair to say.
Right. But all right. So for Mikey V, I'm Doug. This is Bourbon N Ball. Again, we're coming back live next week. We'll talk about the next hottest hitters for the last 7 days next week. And then, of course, like I said, you're not going to want to miss our show this Monday morning. I honestly, when I do go into work, because I do go in once a week, I do plug it on and I listen to it on the way home. It's actually pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, not toot my own horn, but make sure to give us a like, a heart, all that good stuff. Follow us, FSAN, Bourbon and Ball. That's it, guys, for Friday night. Hopefully, we'll see you next week, and make sure to check us out on YouTube on Monday morning. So have a good weekend, guys.